We begin with the session, and I request Dr. Chhalamayi Reddy and Dr. Prabhjot Kulkarni to please come. They will be speaking on applying the idea of integral education. We will be speaking on integral education, the ideal and the possibility, and Prabhjot will be speaking on integrality for teacher preparation, case of a newborn. I request the speakers to introduce themselves.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Well, I don't know whether my brother really planned that I'm supposed to speak just after him, but on the lighter side, I'm sandwiched between the two most important people of this seminar, my brother Anand Reddy and my sister-in-law Deepshika Reddy. It's like, as I said, sandwiched. It's not even just a piece of slice, it's a heavy crust. And probably I could describe myself as the pieces of the cucumber, a little tasteless, but nevertheless adding juice to the sandwich. So apart from the lighter side, I would also like to mention that in connection with what he has been saying, of course, because right now the program is in the venue of SACAR. SACAR, as he himself said, is an extension of the Institute of Human Study at Hyderabad, which was started by my late father in 1964. And he also started the school in 1965. Unlike my brother, who has been made to probably, as in connection with his own inner sadhana and yoga, made to work very, very hard. I think I have always been told by my near and dear ones that I have been a very, very lucky child. And I totally admit that, because the school back in Hyderabad was kind of, it was a ready platform for me to take up the work. So the physical part of the work and the generating of the funds was really not, I did not take the onus. And the work that actually I did was in terms of what I'm going to speak of, so it connects itself with the topic of this afternoon. The fact that I was, when I returned from Pondicherry in 1990, of course, the other introduction about myself is that I'm a former student of the ashram school. And after that, I had my higher education, and I came back to Pondicherry with my daughter, who went to kindergarten, and that's when I did my doctorate from Pondicherry University. But once I went back, I did not have the slightest idea that I would get back to the Institute of Human Study and take up the responsibility of the school. But just trying to help for a short time, my father, who had requested me to kind of take up a little bit of responsibility and work. One of the reasons why I really got very deeply involved in the work is I wanted to enable all the other children of that school, of the Sri Aurobindo International School, named by the mother herself, the opportunity of being able to experience even a 100 part of what joy I had experienced in the ashram school here. So that was the intention, but the experience kind of took over. And I could never do anything else, despite the fact that I probably was trained to become a lecturer and follow in the footsteps of my father, becoming lecturer and professor in any other university. But I think what really kind of made me to stick to the school experience was this intense need to enable the children to enjoy true education, true learning. And as I said, even if I could impart, even if I could provide 1/100th of that little experience that I had really in the ashram school here, I thought that my work and my purpose of working for the Sri Aurobindo International School would be served. So that was the reason actually I got into the school experience. To refer to the most important part of today, of this morning's message, I think when I heard the message, Mother's message, again, it gave me a great sense of reassurance when she said that each avatar comes to establish the future, but that each avatar also meets with a similar kind of resistance that the other avatars have met formally. And Sri Aurobindo's also is meeting with the same kind of resistance. But she ends her message with saying, Sri Aurobindo's work will be done. So therefore, despite the fact that the ideal of integral education is something extremely high, the name of my paper, for the benefit of some who are not aware, is called Integral Education, the Ideal and the Possibilities. So whenever we read the ideals of the integral education, I think it leaves me much more than a kind of a trepidation, as Sir had called it yesterday. It really gives me a tremendous sense of heartache as to the kind of a huge divide between the ideal and what actually is happening in schools today. But I will just, to be brief, just basically address the two questions which have been raised against this subject. And the first will be partially answered while defining the ideal of integral education. Given the short time, I will just quickly read the abstract so that you have an idea of what direction I am going towards in regard to the paper. Integral education as it is conceived by Sri Aurobindo and the mother is a high ideal and is presently far from how it ought to be implemented. This is due to the fact that it is intrinsically connected with the spiritual destiny of humanity. It is only when man consents to be changed from the egoistic animal human nature into divine nature that integral education can truly be realized in its fullness. Otherwise, to seek to translate its noble vision into practice is at best a compromise. Yet it cannot be that we wait until the glorious spiritual destiny of mankind be realized. Just as Sri Aurobindo's yoga is about the progressive evolution of consciousness of the individual, so also education needs to and will mutually correspond to the consciousness of the evolving humanity. What can be done is to first be clear about the goal ahead laid by integral education, second, to survey the present educational scenario, and next set ourselves to the task of creating a context where possible changes can be made. So I will summarily go through the ideal and share the possibilities. Because I think about the practice, I don't want to repeat myself. I think many of us, or if not all of us, are aware of the educational scenario at present, which is totally commercialized and driven, motivated only in connection with material success. So I'll leave aside the examples of the practice, but I'll just go to the ideals and the possibilities. So there will be four aspects actually we concern ourselves with is first the ideal, then the teachers, the parents, and the curriculum. So the ideal, to state in its most simplest terms, is that we are aware that integral education consists of the fivefold education of the physical, the vital, the mental, the psychic, and the spiritual. But it is important to remember that the paradigm, I'm also addressing the second question, or rather the first question which talks about the difference between our integral education and other holistic kind of streams of education. So the educational paradigm of the human personality is actually inverted so far as integral education is concerned. Uh, this vision is based on the belief that the soul takes birth, that is, integral education is based on the belief that the soul takes birth life after life to evolve to a stage of self-realization of its innate divine nature and to increasingly manifest it through the expression of the physical, vital and mental parts of the being. What I'm trying to convey is that the paradigm is upside down in the sense, in regard to most of the other fields of education, it is a personality which is supposed to be trained, and the personality is supposed to kind of reflect itself or develop the character of the child. But according to the integral education, the first need to, is to address the nurturing of the soul. And by nurturing of the soul, by creating context to nurture the soul's development, that the outer personality is going to be influenced and colored. So coming back to the ideal, when somebody asked the mother as to what should be the ideal of the ashram school, she said she wants to have living souls and not so much brilliant students to come out of the system. Now, at best, we have heard how education needs to develop the whole or the entire personality. But how do we address the development of the soul? How best do we address this development at schools, at the way they are running today? Obviously, to speak about it to the students, that is good. To show, do, create a context, an environment where the soul's growth is nurtured is better. But, according to the mother, to be is the best. Now, how is this possible? In ancient times, the guru used to radiate the spiritual energy. The spirituality used to be radiate for the Adhar to experience it. So it was not just by saying it or creating a context, the very energy and the vibration of the guru used to be influencing the student. Does this mean we all wait until we realize our psychic being? Now, this is the kind of predicament, obviously, which faces me day in and day out. Then it would mean that integral education will be applicable only when at least a part of humanity is sufficiently evolved spiritually. Now, do we wait for that? Do we wait until that happens before we step into the zone of integral education? Or, as Kituda referred, it would be meaningful to address the inner psychological aspects closest to the soul, or at least, referring to the second point, create a context. Going back to the second point, at least can schools create an environment, a context where the experience of the higher and the inner is possible. Whatever it is, we need to act. Again, to quote Sir's terms yesterday, we need to act, because I think this is very, very critical. And we need to act with a sense of faith. Despite the fact that on an intellectual level, it seems practically impossible for us to reach that ideal, it is very, very important that we act. And our consciousness will reflect itself in the working, in the processes of the school, proportionate to our own inner development. So what I'm also trying to say is, obviously the management, all of us who are involved in trying to bring about a change, the teachers who are involved in bringing about a change, all of us, it would count in terms of how we are growing within, how we are developing as human beings, how we are absorbing the spirit of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, and how, to that extent, it will influence and affect the learning at school. So as Professor Srivatsan mentioned yesterday, to continuously sensitize the students to spiritual awareness, to keep their antenna high, to provide recurring pointers through the syllabus, to inform, pervade, percolate the curriculum with the high vision of integral education. Coming next is obviously the teachers. And Sri Aurobindo and the mother expect no less than integral educational teachers to be yogis. So again, that is a kind of a standard that she sets. Of course, this book can serve like a guide to any teacher, to all teachers who would like to pursue integral education. But again, the more we read it, sometimes definitely we get completely shocked and completely in a state of depression, because we wonder when and how this is going to be possible. But the educational system sorry, the teachers are also part of this old educational system. That's from where they emerge. Now, they need to practically unlearn before they are able to receive the new knowledge. Also, they come with the baggage of their own expectations from the educational system. That is, rote teaching and high earnings to make quick money the easy way. But the most urgent and vital need is to orient and initiate them constantly. This should become a regular feature in every school which aspires to implement integral education. Parents, in this aggressive age of materialistic competition, the parents perceive their children as investments. At best, they would like to see their children materially successful. Nothing wrong with that, but at the expense of their own individual swabhava and interest. And obviously, the parents on a regular basis need to be provided a different and a new perspective at looking at the child as a growing and evolving soul. We need to continuously communicate to them on a worldly level. It requires a lot of work, and it needs to be continuously done. Need to reassure them at the same time that this kind of nurturing will add meaning and value to the child's entire life. We need to reassure that it is not that we are trying to bring about substandards in academics, but it is going to be added to their academics. Their whole development, it's going to become a truer and a more complete development is what the schools need to reassure them with. And finally, the curriculum. Obviously, the curriculum is a kind of a big hurdle for many schools, but again, it's been a great opportunity at my school because I've been provided the complete freedom to be able to redesign, reorient the school to suit best the possibility of implementing integral education. Therefore, at school, we have done plenty of things. I think during the question sessions, I would be glad to answer your queries in regard to what we could have what we have done at school there, because this syllabus can be restructured at least till 7th class. Our school is affiliated to the ICSE board, so we have exams only at 10th. So we are able to take formal education only at the level of 8, 9, 10th, but we have brought about radical changes until class 7 in regard to tests, in regard to assessments, in regard to not having textbooks, making it activity oriented, making it value based, and so on and so forth. So we have been able to bring in a lot of inputs to be able to bring about a lot of change. This has started around 10 years back in around 1991. We have met with great success, and it's been 20 years now, 18 to 19 years. 4 to 5 of our batch of students, 10th class students, have cleared the ICSE exams in brilliant results, with brilliant results. All of them, there have been no failures. In fact, 99% of them have been first classes. They've gone through the same system that I'm talking about. So it's not that we have undermined their academic excellence, but we are hoping that by the end of their going out of the school, they have been able to gain something on a psychological level. And that's, of course, that is, again, as I said, it's a hope, because that is something which is not measurable as such, but we need to reinforce that with a greater intensity, with a greater sincerity. Just to conclude, I would like to again refer to a kind of a story, a narrative from the Puranas, a story which is well known for, I think, amongst all of us, the story of the competition between Lord Karthikeya and Ganesha as to who is going to go around the world first. And obviously, Lord Karthikeya on his vehicle of the peacock quickly takes off to make a big, wide circle of the earth. And the Lord Ganesha is a smarter deity, a Lord of wisdom. So he goes around Lord Vishnu and Parvati. And I think that should bring us to the metaphor which completely relates itself to integral education. That is, if we are able to connect with the core, with the psychic being, that the rest of it can take care of itself. Thank you.
Prabhjot Kulkarni. I teach at Delhi University, and my dissatisfaction and discomfort in the field of education as an academic discipline, which I was teaching for many, many years in Vivekanand College of Delhi University, made me realize that here is a solution, and I turned to Sri Aurobindo and the mother. My total turning came very late when the Gnostic Center started working in the direction of education and research in Delhi. I was very fortunate that after many, many, many years of that uneasiness, restlessness, came here a solution for me, and I could find some hope, some faith in the destiny of my country and this world where we are living. With this short introduction, I would like to share one more thing. At present, I am the principal of a college of education. The name is Maharishi Valmiki College of Education, which is a new college under the government of Delhi NCT, and it prepares teachers. It was a miracle or a magic, I would say, how I was forced to become the principal of this college. And in the beginning of my career as a principal, I was scared of facing the circumstances and the situations of Delhi University being so politicized, and in the heart of the capital city of Delhi, where every minute we face with conflict, with many such things. And I wanted to escape, and I wanted to run away at one point of time when my inner voice compelled me to hold on, stay there. And that was the time I started coming to Pondicherry very frequently, started getting some kind of assurance that, look, I have kept you there. I am responsible for your college. It is not your college, it is my college, and you have to work there as my agent. And with this assurance, I'm sticking on there. It's now 7 years, whereas people in that college and in the university thought that we will throw her out as soon as she comes. We will not allow her to function. But thankfully, I have completed 7 years. I would not say that I have been a failure. I would say with pride that I was successful with the mother's grace. A little now about the paper. I chose this topic, Integrality for Teacher Preparation, case of a new model, because I myself felt that our students who are going to become teachers need to understand why a change in themselves is required, why they are also feeling very restless, they are very uncomfortable with the programs we offer to them, but there is no other option at the moment. So whatever little we can do as their teacher educators or as their guides, I have personally initiated a program where in my tutorial group, I get 10 to 12 students every year. I ask them to reflect and know about themselves, find out what shortcoming they are having at the moment in the physical nature, what is there in the nature which needs to be changed. And they take 3 to 4 months to recognize what exactly is the problem with their nature. And by the time they are able to identify the problem and they start working on that, it is time for them to go, because our program is of only one academic year. But fortunately, they realize that this is the beginning, this is not just the end. And so they give me the assurance, and they give the assurance to themselves that, ma'am, when we go to the school teaching, we will definitely be working throughout our lives. Well, this is a short presentation with a small historical context of teacher education in our country. Education to work as a dynamic whole for conversion and transformation of society means that the agents of change should be catalytic in nature, vast, broad, and wide in their approach, outlook, and attitude. Teachers are the agents of change, though they may be imposters or dictators in classrooms to some extent, yet they carry the power of dynamism for national change and transformation. To this effect, the Education Commission 1964-66, popularly called Kothari Commission, did point out to enhance the duration of period of teachers' training and preparation. To bring quality change, it recommended professionalization of teacher education and development of integrated programs. There was also a suggestion to develop comprehensive colleges of education and internship. 20 years later, during 83-85, the National Commission on Teachers, popularly called D.P. Chattopadhyay Commission, brought forth a proposal of a 5-year integrated model of teacher education and internship. There have been attempts through National Policy on Education NPE Review Committee 92 and National Advisory Committee on Curriculum Load 93 to bring qualitative reform of teacher education with a brief theoretical orientation, followed by 3 to 5 years of supervised teaching in a school under mentor teachers. The report on learning without burden in 1993, which is a very good report, and I think all of us should go through the pages of this small, very tiny little report, also called Yashpal Committee report. The report on learning without burden emphasized the need of involving teachers in preparing curriculum, textbooks, and in training teachers through the modes of activity, discovery, observation, etc. Such policy recommendations have so far not given a viable and practical solution to us. In teacher education institutions, where the whole focus is on overemphasis of theoretical considerations, facts, and examination-oriented learning, students fail to get inspiration from their program of study and mainly their own teacher educators to become quality teachers. There is an artificiality in dealing with classroom practices in our whole process of teacher training programs, where student teachers follow age-old tradition of lesson plans. Their execution, particularly in the B.Ed course, Bachelor of Education, through stereotype activities and audiovisual teaching aids, which are divorced from the true learning experiences of a child, thus making teacher preparation a mere certification of degree only. I have purposely given this small introduction in brief about this context of teacher education, because towards the end you will find why I have referred to this. Looking at the future education of India from the standpoint of Sri Aurobindo, there is a dire need to go to the root of the problem that is existing in our schools and teacher education institutions. People in the field of education fail to recognize him as a great educationist who gave the world not only a revelation of the truth, but also showed the world humanity a future path leading man to go beyond his transitionary stage to that of supramental. The need of the hour is to replace the existing system of education with a new system which has the power to transform one's total nature. One needs to appreciate that all the works of Sri Aurobindo, literary, social, philosophical, or spiritual, draw out from his fundamental world vision, and so is the case with education also. Man is a transitional being, he is not the final, for in him and high beyond him ascend the radiant degrees which climb to divine supermanhood. So far, man has become a mental being, which is not the last point of summit in the process of evolution. He has to raise himself to a fully conscious individual, practice to become a perfect individual, and finally attain divine manhood. Education can play a dynamic role in transforming man into a total perfect conscious individual. The will to change his animal mentality and sincerity to overcome all imperfections of animal-like nature are to be sought for through the opening and expanding of his hidden spirit. Now, who is a conscious individual? An individual who has become aware of his existence, knows the true purpose of life, and can differentiate between the movements and functioning of the 5 parts of his being, 3 outer, physical, vital, mental, and 2 inner, psychic and spiritual, also has an aspiration and sincerity to change his nature, overcomes all animal-like behavior and gives space to virtues and higher values of life to rule over his conduct, so that the change in his nature helps in raising his consciousness. This is the beginning of leading a life of conscious individual. The first step is to know oneself, followed by knowing the causes and reasons of weaknesses, shortcomings, etc., which are obstacles of growth for a higher life. And finally, pushing them aside permanently with the power of self-determination, will, faith, and endurance. Thus, one can become an aware personality and gradually a master of one's own nature. For a teacher, leading a life of consciousness is a lifelong learning whose foundation should be laid with due care in a teacher education program. That is why the mother says, a teacher in a way is a yogi. All our courses in teacher education are devoid of understanding of this self and its growth. Though in India lies the age-old tradition of Guru Shishya Parampara, where the teacher inspired the pupils to know and understand the self with great care. He was an exemplar before his pupils and a great role model for them. How can we bring the element of self-knowledge in our teacher education? Do we have a working solution to make a dent in the mainstream education? In my personal capacity, I pose a lot of optimism and faith in the future of India when I find the subtle currents of the 3 principles of true teaching running in the government document recently brought out by NCRT, National Council for Educational Research and Training, which is located on Sri Aurobindo Marg, National Curriculum Framework 2005, and this is the highest body of education to control school education in our country. It says in one of the position papers called Aims of Education, I quote, "Education must be a continuous process of self-discovery, of learning the truth about oneself. This is a lifelong process, but the school, through insightful teaching and learning situations of various kinds, can bring home to the child the great importance of this process," unquote. Some points of convergence can be seen very overtly when the NCF 2005 says about different guiding principles. One of them, ensuring the learning is shifted away from the rote methods. The whole world has now accepted through different researchers that child is able to construct his own knowledge. This constructivist approach is reflected in an NCF document. There is a paradigm shift in the role of a teacher, the learning climate, and strategies, like the shift from teacher-centric stable designs to learner-centric flexible processes, teacher directions and decisions to learners' autonomy, from teacher guidance and monitoring to facilitation of learning. We are trying now in another program of Bachelor of Elementary Education, a 4-year integrated program in Delhi University, where we are helping students to become not teachers, but to become facilitators of learning. The shift from learning in group to cooperative learning, learner receptivity to learner participation in learning, knowledge as given fixed to knowledge evolves, linear exposure to multiple exposures, common learning tasks to individualized learning routes, and finally, disciplinary focus to multidisciplinary and educational focus. Now, this is what the position paper of the National Focus Group on Teacher Education for Curriculum Renewal says. And I remember I was also part of this particular focus group for a little while. We pondered a lot on the innovative practices being done in different parts of the country. And one of them, Mirambika, was also taken as a case. But as there are people from different shades and different political backgrounds, different ideas and ideals, it was difficult to convince totally that one particular model can only be a uniform model of teacher education in our country. So it was decided, and it was kind of a common consensus, that there should be a freedom to explore different possibilities of preparing teachers. One of them can be the Mirambika model or Sri Aurobindo model, sorry. The third principle of true teaching is to work from near to far, from that which is to that which shall be. And the NCF also talks about, almost in a similar way, though in the physical surroundings and the local surroundings, how the child is to be taken to the near surroundings first, and then taking the child beyond one's own local vicinity to the world at large, and it emphasizes that the child is able to relate and connect his own knowledge to life outside the school. This may vary from place to place and region to region across the country, and it is a teacher who has to help the child explore his local environment through the subjects of languages, history, geography, science, and mathematics. In today's fast-growing technological world, the teacher's role is manifold, where she has to give ample opportunities to learn through modern technologies, local and folk arts and culture, heritage craft, etc., where a blending of the modern and the conventional ways of building knowledge can take place together. The new teacher education program, thus, is to be dealt with aims of integral education, and they should aim at making a dent in the mainstream education. We can have these aims as the working aims to help develop student teachers become conscious individuals and overcome shortcomings of their nature, to enhance their capacities and capabilities pertaining to body, emotions, and mind to their fullest, to help them seek true purpose of life by setting their own goals and realizing them, to help them develop their inner self through self-reflections, meditation, and other practical exercises for inner growth. Of course, the emphasis is what the mother has been guiding us in the ashram school. The ideal of this new teacher education program would be to prepare an integral personality for the new education. A broad framework can be worked out. I'm just running now. Time is short. The structure would be after 10+2, a 5-year integrated model leading to the master's degree, and a 4-year integrated model after 10+2 leading to bachelor's degree in education, where the theory would be having core subjects like humanities or science or social sciences or languages, and then interdisciplinary courses like psychology, sociology, languages, child studies, philosophy, and then integral education studies, where we will have selected works of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, including those on education. Corresponding practicum, which is very, very essential to above course subjects, interdisciplinary courses and integral education studies, for which the details are to be worked out. Child development, understanding of Indian society and polity, human development, etc. Compulsory practicum for all 4 to 5 years. All 4 to 5 years would be first physical and health education and commune with nature, visual arts, performing arts, music, dance, and drama, not just as subjects, but their use in classroom practices, like music in education, drama in education, and then movements and mime in education as methods also. Yoga, meditation, and self-reflection, self-knowledge through workshop mode, and experiential exercises. Evaluation and assessment would be based on self-appraisal by students, formative approach in theory through different assignments, projects, and other tasks, short tests and flexible exams for theory on a periodical basis, maybe quarterly or half-yearly, depending on the pace and preparation of students. All practicum courses to be evaluated in a qualitative manner, where the students' progress is measured in terms of their growth and in grades. I conclude hurriedly. For this new model to work, innovative techniques would be evolved along with existing critical pedagogic approach. The environment and the setting of such an institution would have high standards of physical infrastructure based on the principle of aesthetics and beauty, added to which will be a free and joyful atmosphere of learning. Now, what is in our hands? We are small teachers, but we can make a big change. To me, I felt change in our own nature to utmost perfection, making aspiration high and burning for collective growth of consciousness, faith in the divine, sincere efforts, if they are small in the beginning, trying to locate our own position in the mainstream education as integral personalities. NCT, National Council of Teacher Education, the regulatory body of teacher education in our country, gives scope to those institutions who wish to make a change and do some innovative work in teacher education. Efforts in this direction can be made where already some work in integral education has been accomplished, like Auroville, Pondicherry, Hyderabad, parts of Orissa, and maybe Mirambika, Delhi, before we take a plunge to totally transform the scene of education in India. And also, I think in our educational circles now, discourses and debates can be initiated in all possible ways where we can build a case for the development of conscious individuals in our teacher education programs. The task may look difficult and challenging, but we should have the warning given by the mother. Whatever is new will always meet opposition from conservative people. If we yield to this opposition, the world will never advance one step. Thank you so much.